Assalamu alaikum and welcome back. You're watching Women's AM with myself, Liz, and on the panel joining me we have Nazia and Hassana, and our special guest for today is Saima Dowdy. Welcome back, Saima. Jazakallah khair for joining us again. So today we're talking about troubles faced in secondary schools, and obviously you're a mum of three, mashallah, but I understand you also do a lot of work with the youth as well. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
I work mainly in the masjid, and so basically I do classes for 3 to 5, and also a teenage class as well. So we do Alif Bata and stories of the Sahaba and basic etiquettes with the younger lot, just to get them to know the practical aspects of Islam in terms of how to practically apply Islam in terms of how do you go in the bathroom, how do you keep yourself clean, how do you respect your parents, how do you enter the home, everything. With the older lot though, we do, because look, when you're younger, you accept everything that your parents teach you. You're like a sponge. You will accept everything. Then you reach a certain age where you start questioning the ideas that are being given to you. So for that age group, we have to do something a bit different, where we allow them to come with their questions, to come with their worries, to come with their criticisms of Islam. And then we help them through it by allowing them to to first air their views, and therefore then we guide them through and give them a solid answer at the end.
It's really valuable for them to have somewhere where they can voice this and work through it, rather than it just kind of niggling away, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I think definitely what you mentioned, Sister Saima, about the youth having activities that are kind of relevant to them. I mean, what are some of the specific programs that you have for the young people?
Alhamdulillah, the masjid that I'm in, Alhamdulillah, Al-Muzammil Mosque in South London, the Imam there is fabulous.
My side of London, Alhamdulillah.
It's a very small mosque, but it's very, very friendly. So they allow the children to come there, and they have now, alhamdulillah, adopted the view that I wanted for the mosque, which is that it should be the hub for the community. It should be a place where brothers, sisters, married couples, not married couples, people with kids, people without kids, younger people, older people, teenagers should all feel that they have a place in the mosque and a reason for going there.
In the time of the Prophet, peace be upon him.
Exactly.
We're going to be talking a little bit more about that tomorrow, inshallah. So that'll be an interesting discussion, I'm sure. Well, Jazakallah khair. I'd love to hear more, but we do have to move on now to today's topic. We're going to go straight to her views, where we discuss some of the troubles faced at secondary school. With calls for a whole-scale overhauling of the education system, much more needs to be addressed in respect to the student experience. For us as Muslims, educating ourselves in knowledge that is beneficial is crucial in our religion. But education is not just limited to academics, but also learning about one's identity, learning to stand up for one's values, talents, interests and strengths, vital life skills that many are struggling to comprehend and face up to. In today's discussion, we look at the troubles that many students may be facing in secondary schools, understanding what are the causes and how can we as parents, teachers and fellow students offer support to make this part of their youth a lot easier. Now, Saima, I'm going to come straight to you first of all. We're talking about the secondary school experience, so we're talking about, you know, teenagers, basically. So the transition from a young boy or a young girl into a teenager is a huge one. Tell me a little bit more about what does this transition involve?
Well, it is definitely a massive jump, because you, like I mentioned before, when you go from being told what to do majority of your life, and you accept it as well, then you hit this age of adolescence, and this is when your mind starts opening up, and you now want to challenge and question and find your own path. So it's that's just what's going on in your mind. But also you've got physical changes taking place which are going to affect your mind as well. So you're going to become aware of things that you weren't aware of. So a guy is going to now become aware of girls, and vice versa. You're now going to want to you're going to have a stronger sense of self, so you're going to want to, for guys maybe, they will feel like they need to be more manly, and now they're going to start looking for role models. Girls are going to start feeling maybe a bit insecure, and how they will show it is going to come out in a different way to guys. So there's a lot of physical changes going on, a lot of your mentality is changing, and your whole perception of the world is changing.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
it's a huge change.
There's a lot to comprehend, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely. Just a reminder that this is a live discussion, so please do call in with your comments or questions. The number will be appearing on your screens throughout the segment, inshallah. So just touching on this, you know, this huge change that the teenagers are going through, what role do the parents play in this? How can we ease this transition for our children, inshallah?
It's a massive role. It's a massive role, subhanAllah. And it has to start from day one. As Muslim parents, we have to have a really clear vision vision, not stumble along and just make it, you know, work it out as we go along. We have to have a vision from the start, that we lay down the premise from day one of a criteria. So we show our children what Islam says is right and what Islam says is wrong, because they will accept it at that age. But when they get to the age of when they want to question, we have to welcome that questioning, and we have to accept it and expect it, because too much in our community, I see it amongst the girls that come, they feel shy to ask, and the guys, they feel shy to ask about, you know, what does Islam say about this? Am I allowed to do that? What do I do in this circumstance? I'm feeling this way, is it right? And too many times I see that the parents are just throwing up the haram card. This is haram, 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 haram. Everything is haram, you know? And the child feels like, okay, well, how do I live then? And then if I'm not liking something being haram and I want something that you're saying is haram, where do I fit in with Allah now? I'm just like a really bad person then. So the questioning stage has to be expected, and the questioning stage has to be welcomed, and it has to be handled with care and gentleness and a lot of tolerance and patience. That's how we can ease the transition. Expect it. Don't try and suppress it.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, asking questions. This is a very healthy part of not just of growing up, but also of being a Muslim. You know, I'm so grateful when I came into Islam that I was able to ask anything I wanted. You know, I had very supportive people around me who never kind of thought, oh, why are you asking that? Or you shouldn't really ask this, or, you know, we're not allowed to touch on this area. Islam is not like that. You know, we can ask anything, and, you know, we should get into the practice of doing that as you know, as teenagers and even into adulthood, inshallah. So Hassana, I'm going to come to you next. When we're at school, when we're at secondary school, we come across these general trends, stereotypes, and obviously we've said it's at a time when, you know, young people, teenagers are very vulnerable, susceptible to this kind of thing. Particularly with young Muslims who are in secondary school at the moment, how does this when we're talking about the issues that we're facing in secondary schools, how does this compare to what the parents faced and, you know, it may be older siblings?
It's a really interesting question, actually. And, you know, just to touch on what Sister Simon was saying, I think it's really important that we recognise that a lot of the issues that young people are facing, you know, they're kind of general issues that all teens face, regardless of their background. So, of course, there are issues specifically that the Muslim community will be facing, but a lot of the times, teenagers generally have got very similar issues. So, I mean, being in secondary school, really, it's a really, really important stage in the development of a child, and it requires them to navigate through a lot of different things. So it's, you know, the changing thoughts and feelings about the world around them, their identity, their faith, their self-worth. So they're kind of struggling with lots of different things, and it's also pushing them to think about their relationship with their peers, with the people around them, with their family. And you know, there's actually quite a lot on a teenager's plate. So it's no surprise then that we have so many different issues that crop up during this period in their life. And so we have these stereotypes that also, you know, compound these problems and make them even worse. You know, there's lots of different stereotypes that we can talk about. I just wanted to touch on two. We have this idea of intelligence, and this is a time where, of course, they're in school, their intelligence is being tested, and they're kind of going through lots of different exams and different kind of testing modes and things like that. And we've all heard the statistics that girls perform better than boys. I actually really want to touch on this because I think this is really important. This actually has a really negative impact on boys and their academic achievements during this period of time. There's a study published in the Child Development Journal which talks about this, and boys felt that they weren't expected by their parents and teachers to do well at this stage, and that kind of lost their motivation for their studies. So, you know, I just want to, for any kind of parents of boys out there, I think this is a really important point to touch on, that actually we should be motivating both children, and these kind of stereotypes, they can be really harmful to boys and girls as well. And the other one I wanted to talk about was this whole idea of modern day groups or cliques or whatever you want to call it. You know, there's this whole idea in popular culture, particularly in films and programs, that when you get to high school you've got to be in a certain camp or group. And you know, there's whole films that are dedicated to kind of talking about, okay, if you act like this or you dress like this, you're with the geeks group, or if you dress in a certain way, you're going to be with the popular group and all the rest of it. And you know, there's this one popular high school film which kind of relates this whole scenario to almost like a jungle system, where you've got the popular kids who are kind of, you know, like the lions of the group, and then you've got the less popular kids who end up being the prey or the vulnerable ones. And I just think you know, images like this make it very difficult for teenagers, because if they don't fit into any of those groups, they're kind of left feeling very stranded, like, where do I fit in with this? So I think there are a lot of differences as well with the older generation as well. And, you know, I remember my parents talking about their school years, and it definitely wasn't the same. I don't think they face the same pressures. There were pressures there, but I think there are a lot more pressures now just because of these images that we're seeing, and you know, the advent of social media and all of these things. It makes it much harder for teenagers now, I feel, than it was even when I was growing up. So yeah, definitely.
No, absolutely. And I think, you know, one of the pressures that we see, particularly at secondary school, is this idea of the genders interrelating, you know, this issue of free mixing. Obviously, Islamically, we have very clear guidelines on this. But how do we guide young Muslims, you know, our youth through this, you know, through this scenario? I'm going to start with you, Nazia.
I think this is